Veronica had just written her book, and she said, "What now?" And I said, "Well, it'd be rather nice if we got a write-up or something." And I think she may have sent a copy to the Farmers Weekly, because we were on a little farm. And in the Farmers Weekly, there's a women's section, all about tractors and everything else, but there's always a section for the family in the middle. And the journalist came from Farmers Weekly with a photographer, and Veronica was explaining about geopathic stress and other things, and the photographer suddenly said, "Oh, would that explain why my little girl won't sleep in her bed? She always comes to our bed." I said, "Could be. Just sketch out do a rough plan of your house and write the address." And I was listening to Veronica, but maybe to demonstrate to them the effect of I didn't ask, can I, may I, should I, which gives you the protection. So I just dowsed over it. Wham! I was prostrate on the kitchen floor, knocked out of the chair, really shaken, and they said, "What's that?" And I said, "That's the energy in your little girl's room." "Oh my goodness, why is that?" And I said, "Well, it's Cotswold stone, which is limestone. There's an underground stream. It comes along, and underneath your daughter's bed, there's a waterfall which goes down about 100 feet. And the energy is being taken like that. So please don't let that little girl go in there." And they said, "Well, we were thinking of selling anyway." And I said, "Well, fine. Otherwise, just use that as a guest room, because the guests won't stay too long." And so that seemed to be the solution. Right. What shall we talk about? Curses? All right. I used to practice in the Hale Clinic, just off Regent's Park. And Veronica had a great friend from South Africa, and who used to organize workshops for Veronica to give in Mossyman's, the upper deck of the restaurant in the West End of London. Anyway, when I was going to practice there, Veronica said, "Well, aren't you go and visit her friend?" So the two ladies would then douse all sorts of things. I'd do my work and then come back. And they always got on extremely well. They decided to move back to South Africa to retire. And they went back and they were very happy. They sent us pictures of their nice house and everything was super, and she was doing a lot of charity work and everything was going along very well. But one day she phoned up Veronica and said, "Could you check what's happening with her father? Because," she said, "I know Daddy's dying. He's on very heavy cortisone, heavy steroids and all sorts of stuff. We don't expect him to last more than a few weeks. But he was attacked today by his own dog, by a black snake, and a black dog." And she said, "There can't be three things in the one day. There must be something involved. Could you see what you get?" So we sat in the kitchen working on this. It took us a good day, but it was absolutely fascinating. We found eventually through yes and no, that there was a curse which had been put on her daddy 20 years previously. And we dowsed that he'd sacked his cook for stealing sugar. Now in Africa, everybody gets a sugar ration if they're in the house, but he was selling sugar from the store wholesale. So every month he got through a whole sack, about 100 weight of sugar. And they said, "Well, this is unreasonable. He has to go." Now the cook thought this was very unreasonable, understandably, different set of values. And so he went along to the shaman, the witch doctor, and said, he probably paid him in sugar, and said, "Please would you put a curse on the boss who just fired him?" So the shaman said, "Yes, okay." And that was the curse that was still running. So we then said, "Oh, this is going to be tricky." is the shaman or the witch doctor, is he still alive? No. And I said, well, thank goodness for that. That makes life a bit easier. So can we communicate with him? Yes. Right. Can we made sure our protection was okay. Can we please ask him very politely to lift the curse? It's been 20 years now. Nope. Came back. And it went on. We were negotiating. No, nothing. And so I said, well, we need a little bit of help here. So I said, could we have a bit of a tough militant angel, please? Would you please pick up the energy of the witch doctor? I mean, it said to the witch doctor, who was then in the hand of the angel, well, would you please lift the curse? Nope. So we then asked the angel to give the witch doctor a little squeeze. Nope. So I said, well, could you give him a squeeze like you would squeeze a mouse and the eyes would pop out? And whereupon the witch doctor said, okay. And he said, really? Yes. He said, I'll lift it. Okay, thank you very much. We thought we were going bonkers. I said, Veronica, just phone your friend and tell her we've done something. Don't say what. And see whether anything's improved. So she phoned her friend, told her, and she said, well, I'll get back in touch. And a week, 2 weeks later, a phone call from South Africa again. Veronica, you're a miracle worker. And Veronica said, why? Daddy's doing laps of the pool. Right. And Mummy's stopped drinking. And we said, well, Veronica said, I didn't know your mother drank. Oh, yes, she's been an alcoholic for 20 years. So then Veronica said, well, in that case, I can tell you what it was. So she explained, and then there was a gasp at the other end. Oh, that's why the brothers never succeeded at business. They would get so far with the business and never get the deal. That's very useful. And then we worked out that she had left South Africa before this happened. So she wasn't included in the general curve. So I went back to the witch doctor to say thank you very much, and that was really very nice of you, and we were sorry to put pressure on you. And whereupon we got a message back, which took quite a long time to work out. You know, how to get a message, don't you? You know, is it something to know, something to do, or something to ask? Is it on a physical level, is it an emotional level, or a psychic level? And then you ask for help, who's going to help with this? And then you get the dictionary and go through and find keywords which give you a clue. And anyway, we worked out that the witch doctor owed us one because we had shown him that we could overcome him. Therefore, he was obliged to help us if we had any other similar case. So I thought, well, that was very nice. Is that how the universe works? Yes. And by the way, you're never given anything that you can't deal with. That's also another rule of the universe. And so we said, oh, that's useful. Didn't think any more about it. Until a few weeks later, we'd been helping 3 Anglo-Irish girls who were in England. They had all sorts of things with schools and children, and we'd helped with finding the right school and all sorts of things. But anyway, they said, Mummy has a problem. Can she phone you? I said, of course. So Mummy phoned from County Wexford and said, my husband is not the easiest to live with at the best of times. He's a retired naval captain. But he has these boats and they go out fishing, and he has this one boat, and it's a nice boat, but whenever he goes out on that, his clients never catch a fish. So I said, send us a picture of the boat, the name and so on. And by the way, where did you buy it? Oh, he bought it in West Africa. I said, West Africa for Ireland? Yeah, well, it was cheap and it was very good. So we dowsed that actually the boat was cursed, and that's why it was so cheap. And it had been cursed by a Cameroonian witch doctor. Now, those are the ones who wear all these face masks and do, lots of rattles and wonderful stuff. So I said to Veronica, Crump, they speak a very funny French down there, don't they? And I tell you what, let's see if we can enlist the South African witch doctor. So I spoke to the South African witch doctor and said, could you help us with a colleague of yours? He's in Cameroon, and we explained everything. He said, oh yes, leave it to him. And we did. And then we phoned up the wife and said, well, we've done something, but we won't tell you what we've done, but just tell us if there's any change. 2 weeks later, we got a press cutting from the Irish Times of the boat, the client, beaming captain, and the huge fish, and on it said, largest game fish ever caught in Irish waters. So I said to Veronica, well, I think that does it. That's fine. So that seems to work. So we were very happy about that. And then shortly afterwards, it was at the College of Psychic Studies, they got a phone call from a West African lady who was very irate. She said, my stall at Camden Market has been cursed. I have no customers. All the other people have customers. I have no customers. So we said, all right, we'll go down after we've finished work here. And we went down to Camden Market, met this lovely lady, and said, well, what are you selling? She said, best chicken stew with lots of chili. Very, very good. And I looked at it, it smelled delicious. I thought, oh, I'd have to try some of this. But it picked up that the store had been, or she had been cursed. West Africa, okay. What do we do here? So then I said, right, have you got any empty Coca-Cola bottles? Plastic ones. And have you got any beans? And will you put some beans in to make a rattle? So she did that, and I said, that's great. Now, I'm going to behave a bit strangely because I'm going to ask for a Cameroonian witch doctor to come into me to clear this curse. So in a roundabout way, we asked the South African witch doctor to speak to the Cameroonian, who then came into me, and I took off around this. It was great fun. The West African lady had big eyes. Veronica was giggling. And after about 15 minutes, I stopped and said, right, I think that's done it. Where's the bin? And threw them into the waste bin. And she said, but those are good beans. I said, no, they're not. If you feed anybody those beans, it'll kill them. Everything's in the beans now. So just let that go. And I said, she said, well, how do I know whether it's worked? And I said, why don't you start serving your customers? She said, what do you mean, customers? And there was a queue. I never got to taste the stew, which was a great shame, but there we were. Anyway, curses. Curses. Let's see what else. Let's put some other things down, which I wanted to tell you about. I felt wonderful, very mad, but completely, it was just fun. Because it's very important that you realize that you're never given and you can't cope with. So for instance, when we opened the doors of a garage and bitter lemons in Cyprus, that was the house where one of the Dowsers was writing the Alexandra Quartet. And he always went down to the local pub and sat under the tree with his bottle of wine. He never did any writing at the way he was staying. And I'm sure he needed the wine just to sleep there because it was on an earth fault. And was very stressed. And when we opened the doors, about 30 ghosts came out at us just like hornets. And I remember saying to Veronica, oh, whoopee, tennis. And we just had to go like this and just knock them off to the light. But you're never given and you can't cope. Okay. Oh, by the way, if anybody's anxious, you know how to release fear, don't you? What's the scariest thing you can do? You ask any man and he'll say, get married. So, wedding ring finger. Can I borrow your hand? Left hand, that one. And this knuckle here. 1, 2, 3. The meridian goes around to the heart. So if you're anxious about anything, you wake up in the middle of the night having horrors or something, just press that and it'll release. there. Okay? 3 squeezes. Don't do it forever and ever. Just, just do it once or twice. That's all you'll need. What was it? Yes. Relevant past lives. Relevant past lives can be quite interesting and very useful. There was a lady who came to see me. Her husband was a banker, and I used to go and see the banker out of hours to help him with questions that he had. And he always knew when to call me because he would drop a particular crystal I'd given him, and I'd have to get another one. And his wife came to see me because she said she was having trouble. She had broken the glass ceiling, and she was a board member. But she said, the trouble is, I'm not very tall, and she was very feminine. She said, the other board members don't think I should be doing anything other than passing around the coffee cups and things. I'm really the token female on the board. But she said, I had this wonderful project. And she said, I told them about it, and they changed the subject and talked about something else. What am I doing wrong? So I said, well, hang on a minute, because I have a checklist which I go through, and it came up on the checklist with relevant past life. So I said, well, a relevant past life is going to help you. Let's see, what shall we do? Yes, so I had to dowse to find out which it was, and it was when she was a female pirate captain in the Caribbean. And afterwards I thought, a lady pirate captain, there aren't any. And there were lots. And they were very tough. 1 or 2 Irish ones amongst them. And anyway, once we determined this and we were talking about it, I was able to take her there. She said, I can feel the deck moving under me. Oh, the power. Ooh, she said, gosh, the crew were really terrified of her because if they put it foot wrong, she would just shoot them all, throw a knife at them, she was just so ruthless. So nobody questioned her. I said, bring that energy back with you. And she said, oh, yes, I can feel that. So I said, now, next time we go into the board meeting, take that energy with you and see whether it helps you. I thought, I don't know what's going to happen, we'll see. She phoned up afterwards, giggling. I said, what happened? And she said, well, I used to go in, the first one in there, and I'd be making sure the coffee pot cups are being put around and so on. But this time I hung back, I was the last in. And instead of going genteelly through one door, she said, I went through the 2 doors, bang. And she went up to the table with all these gentlemen sitting around, muttering like this, and she took her wad of papers and threw them down on the thing, bang. And they all looked startled. And she said, at last I have your attention. Now I have this proposal. I've told you about it. And Mr. Chairman, I insist that we vote on this now, and I expect it to be carried. And all these guys went, okay. And she went and sat down quietly. Didn't say anything else. And at the end of the meeting, the chairman said, my dear, would you just wait a minute? So he said, oh, I'll get in the neck now. And he came up and sat next to her and he said, my dear, you seem strangely changed, but I love it. Okay. Now, I want to cover 3 other things. One is wands, one is angels, and another one is ghosts. Now, first of all, we never need to be worried about ghosts. Ghosts are just people who don't realize they're dead. And if they are surprised by their death, they sometimes tend to stay with where they feel safe, so they go back home. But then, of course, the house gets sold, and then maybe a family of Sikh taxi drivers move in, and the case in point, the taxi driver was in Maidenhead, and they couldn't understand. They moved into a bigger house. The smaller house, they were always got on so well, and in this bigger house, there was always arguments, and they couldn't understand. So we went to visit, and Veronica sat down on the sofa, waiting for her cup of tea, which was offered, and immediately stood up again and said, well, I've just sat on your problem. I've just sat on the ghost. And this is a gentleman who's died in the house, and he doesn't speak your language, and he's trying to talk to you because he doesn't realize he's dead. So what we do is we ask the loving angels just to lift him to the light. And we usually do that by asking the angels to lift him to the light and take out your pendulum. And as long as it's spinning, that's the time it's taking. Now, some ghosts are a little bit, they're scared. They can be emotional. I remember clearing one sweet girl who'd been used by the master of the house, and she committed suicide, and she was stuck. But when we lifted her to the light, I burst into tears. It was just such a nice energy. But sometimes there was a Greek landowner on Cyprus, and he died. He had about 4 acres of 4 hectares of vines, which is quite a lot. But he was in the Turkish sector, and the Turks sold his land to expatriates. And the expatriates called us in and said, what on earth's going on here? We are being chased the whole time. We're disturbed. There's something. And I said, well, you've got a ghost here. So I took my dowsing rod to follow where the ghost was, and I had to chase it. And I chased it all the way through to the guest room where he couldn't go any further. And I said, well, stop running. Just sit down. I want to have a word with you. So I had the ghost sitting in a chair, and I was sitting in a chair. And I said, well, why are you tormenting these people? Oh, it's my land. I said, yes, but you're no longer alive. But I worked so hard for this land. I said, I quite understand that. But this part of Cyprus is now occupied by the Turks. Wouldn't you like to be in a Greek part of the island, or a Greek part of Greece? Well, yes, that would be nice. And how many hectares of vines would you like? What? I said, you can have anything you like. How many hectares would you like? 40? Yeah, that's possible. And so you come back, you'll be born into a family who have 40 hectares of vines, and you'll inherit them. What about that? Gone. He went quick as a flash. And so sometimes I don't normally get into conversations because it's usually easier just to ask, should this ghost be here? Because sometimes we have ancestral piles where the ghost is having a lovely time and it's all part of the fabric, if you like, of the place. And sometimes ghosts are very helpful. There was a butler in a hotel, but he had to have his duties redescribed. But once he was told what he had to do, he was then very helpful. Veronica's ghost friend in Ireland, when we moved, the family one day ganged up on me and they said, Dad, we want to move back to England. I said, well, how many of you? Well, all of us. Oh. Because when I moved in there, it was difficult getting the stuff into the place. And I told the movers, they said, it'd be very difficult getting stuff out of here. So you don't need to worry, boys. The only thing that's coming out of here is me in a long box. So I said, oh, right, I've had my dream. We've been over 20 years in Ireland. I've had a lovely time. You all want to go to England. I'm outvoted. Let's go to England. Another adventure. So off we went. Which is... and so we had Veronica's ghost. So Veronica then said, she was called Lizzie. Lizzie, do you want to go to the light? No, I'm coming with you. We thought this was a bit unusual, but Lizzie came with us to to the Vale of Evesham. And then Veronica said, Lizzie, are you going to stay with me until I pass? Oh no, she said, I'm going to go when the German Shepherd, we had a big German Shepherd who was very protective of Veronica, called Bismarck. When Bismarck goes, I will go with the dog. And that's what happened. Quite extraordinary. The other thing I wanted to mention is, please remember to work with angels. I'm sure you all have a parking angel, don't you? And that works very well, doesn't it? As long as you remember to ask beforehand. And I remember on one occasion Veronica had asked for a parking space in Evesham, and we drove around the corner because this parking space was just outside our curry house, and somebody had just driven into our parking space, and Veronica said, they're taking our parking space, whereupon they drove away again. So you can always ask for angels to assist, and you can have angels for any I was describing earlier, I have an outrider. When the weather's bad, I was driving back from London, and I suddenly noticed there was a motorbike in the fast lane with the fellow waving to me to catch him up, like following me at the airport, and he had one of these flapping Macs. And I looked at it again. It looked about 1915 or something like this. But it was pouring rain, so I just followed him. I put my foot down and went up the fast lane, and pouring rain, 80 miles an hour, got home very early. It's been there ever since. But not everybody... There's an angel for everything. So if you play golf, you can always ask for a golfing angel to assist you, but I would suggest a professional. If you play bowls, you can ask for a bowling angel to assist you. Okay? And if you need to have more friends, you can ask for a networking angel to assist you. It all works, you just have to ask. But if you don't ask, you don't get. Okay.